because I am positive that next year, when this time comes around, I will be just as behind on my Goodreads reading challenge as I am this year. That's a lot of things I just said. I think that this book is so underrated. If you love Sally Rooney, this is so much better, and I will die on this hill. I was not expecting it. Just everything. This is what you want. I'm just saying. Hello my lovely readers and queers, welcome back to my channel for another 12 Days of Booksmas video. My name is Franny, and today I would like to join the trend because everyone is doing it, so why shouldn't I? In today's video, I would like to recommend to you some short books that you could read if you need to catch up on your Goodreads reading challenge and you're behind. This is a selection of short books that I've read and enjoyed, and I have grouped these titles into 4 categories. We have actual novellas, then short fiction books, short non-fiction books, and at the end, graphic novels. Let's begin with the novellas. First I want to recommend is The Cybernetic Tea Shop by Meredith Kaz. This is a sapphic queer sci-fi novella about a robot who is fully autonomous, fully independent, and they own a tea shop. And one day a technician stops at this tea shop and they start talking and then become friends, and perhaps they start developing feelings for each other. And it was so cute. Even if it is a very short novella, it still packs a punch. It gave me all the feels, and it made me think about prejudice and diversity and what it means to be different from the rest of society and how people treat you because of this diversity. Diversity, of course, in this case being the robot. And The Cybernetic Tea Shop is 65 pages long. And since we're speaking of sci-fi and robots and cozy queer novellas, I just cannot not mention the Monk and Robot series by Becky Chambers. I know everyone has recommended it already in their videos, but there's a reason why they did so. And I do not want to really talk about it. I just want to mention A Song for the Wild Builds and the sequel, A Prayer for the Crown Shy. This is just what you want. This is what you want and need to read if you want queer, if you want cozy, if you want humanity and kindness and reflection and just everything. This is what you want. I'm just saying. Then I have a urban fantasy, historical fiction sort of queer tor novella. That's a lot of things I just said. It's Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk, and I really loved this novella. I was not expecting it. I don't see this novella around as much as I would love to, and it is so good. It's such a shame. It is sapphic, it is queer. We are following a detective who kind of sold her soul to what entity was it? Not death, but something along those lines. So they are on borrowed time, but they really do not want to go because they are in love with someone. They are together with their partner, and so she doesn't want to die. She doesn't want to leave her, but time is running up. She becomes involved in a very dark, twisted murder investigation, and she didn't want to get involved with this sort of thing. However, she is asked, well, more bribed perhaps, to investigate, because if she does and if she finds out who the murderer is, this person that is kind of hiring her will help her to get her soul back, and so she could stay with her girlfriend that she loves so much. Now that I've said all this, just think of the title. You know, it's a very good story, and all of this happens in 136 pages. And last, for the novellas categories, I want to recommend a series of novellas where as you go on, they become longer and longer, but we're still around 60 to 100, 120 pages. I found out about this series in a video recommendation. Who was it? I want to give credit where credit is due. Kirsten at Reading Nymph, that's who talked about this series. So the books in this series, we have The Pig in the Derby Hat, Something in the Woodshed, The White Owl of Thicklewood Hall, and Castle Gout and the Peculiar Petunia. That was a tongue twister. Castle Gout and the Peculiar Petunia. I haven't read the last book yet in the series, but I have read the first 3 and I really enjoyed them. The first one was actually my favorite. The third one was my least favorite, But anyways, we have an older man, an expert in the paranormal phenomena, I want to say, who helps out a young girl in the first book to kind of protect her grandmother from a paranormal creature. And then once this thing is resolved, he offers this young woman, Clementine, the possibility to go with him and become his apprentice in the paranormal investigation business. Each book has its own case, its own mystery, but there's like an overarching plot mystery situation going on that I'm guessing is going to get resolved in the fourth book, because I don't think there are any more coming out in this series. It's not quite cozy, but they are nice paranormal investigations, and they're very short. Each book is very short, and I recommend it. And now we move on to short fiction books. First, I want to recommend Different for Boys by Patrick Ness. This is 104 pages long, but it feels like it's 40 pages long tops, because the text is big and many sentences for a very specific reason are blacked out, so you can't read the text behind the blacked out parts. You kind of have to guess what's underneath. And there are also illustrations by Thea Bendix that are kind of sometimes full page, sometimes they blend in with the text, but they occupy a lot of space, so it's not at all a long book to read. I would say 30 minutes and you're done, but it really packs a punch. It is so good. We have our main character, who is a 17, I think, year old boy. I mean, he's a teenager, he goes to high school. He's just kind of reflecting about what it means for a boy to lose his virginity. Like, when does it happen? What does it mean for a queer couple, for a same-sex couple, to lose your virginity? What do you consider as sex? We also see this main character interact with his friends, who some of them are homophobes, so know what you're getting into. With this book, it is not lighthearted at all. It really packs a punch, but Patrick Ness is such a good writer. That was a YA recommendation, clearly. Now we move on to adult fiction with Our Souls at Night by Kent Hauruff. This is 175 pages long, and it is about two old people, a man and a woman. Both of them, I think, have lost their partner. Perhaps the woman is a widow and the man never got married, or something like that. They both feel very alone, and the woman does not want to be alone anymore, especially in the last stage of her life. And so, knowing that this man is also alone, she asks him whether he wants to go and spend the nights at her place. Not necessarily to do anything, just to be there and keep each other company. And of course, they live in a small town. People do not understand what is happening. They judge them for what they're doing, even though they don't know what is happening and why these two people are choosing to spend their nights together. And the story goes from there. And it was so sweet. It made me tear up. It made me so emotional. And there's also a movie with Jane Fonda that is slightly different from the book, from what I remember, but it's just as good, and even the movie made me tear up, and I definitely recommend. Then at 192 pages, I have White on White by Aysegul Savas. First of all, gorgeous cover. I remember listening to the audiobook that I think was 4 hours long, something like that, and great narrator. Who narrated the audiobook of this one? They were so good. Imani Jade Powers. There you go. That's why I loved it so much. I love Imani Jade Powers' voice. She is so good. Anyways, it was 3 hours and a half, not 4 hours long. Apologies. This book is about a PhD student who is studying Gothic nudes. We don't know the student's name. She moves to an unnamed town in order to continue her research for her thesis, and she rents an apartment from a painter. She's supposed to be alone in this apartment, but then this painter comes back. This painter named Agnes is in a bit of a tough spot with her husband, if I'm not mistaken, and so she ends up staying at this apartment, and the two get to know each other and have these weird conversations that seem to be born out of nowhere. They are so random, almost invasive in the painter's life, but it's the painter who is volunteering all these personal information about herself and her life and her relationship with her husband and her friends. And the whole book is just about these very weird but fascinating conversations, and I just remember really enjoying it, and the gorgeous cover just speaks for itself. There's actually a book by Aysegul Savas that came out this year called The Anthropologist that I really want to read, and I think that that one is also a short book. So there you go. You can just read something by this author to read a short book to, you know, catch up with your reading challenge. And last but not least, this is a bit of a cheat because it is 240 pages long, but it reads pretty fast, I think, and the audiobook is 5 hours and a half. It's not that long, right? Franny from the future here. I went on a whole rambling rant for this book, and when I went on to edit the footage, I realized that I hadn't even told you the title of the book, let alone what it's about. So here I am to rectify that mistake. The book that you will see me rambling on about is The Happy Couple by Nisha Dolan. This is a queer literary fiction book in which we are following a couple, Celine and Luke, who are about to get married. However, in the days leading up to their wedding, they're actually wondering whether they want to go through with this wedding, whether they want to take this next step, or if they found themselves there just because it seemed the right thing to do. It seemed about time. And we have 3 POVs, if I'm not mistaken: Celine's, Luke's, and Archie, who is Luke's best man, and he's also in love with Luke. And there you have it. We can go back to the actual video now. And I do recommend the audiobook. It's narrated by Ayola Smart and Bert Seymour, and such an incredible performance. I loved both of them so much. I think that this book is so underrated, and I do not for the life of me understand why. Because if you love Sally Rooney, and I only have read one book by Sally Rooney and I didn't really like it all that much, but if you like Sally Rooney, this is so much better, and I will die on this hill. I stand by what I just said. And that's why I had to recommend this book. Next is nonfiction books. And the first one that I have to recommend, because I loved it so much, is Love That Journey for Me, The Queer Revolution of Schitt's Creek by Emily Garside. This one is 112 pages long, and it is part of the 404 Inklings series. There are more than 20 books in this series. They're all nonfiction books that are very, very short. There's another one that is on my list and that I hope to get to very soon, and that is All the Violet Tiaras, Queering the Greek Myths by Jean Menzies. She is a booktuber that I follow and really, really enjoy. But there are so many in this series, so you can literally see what topic you're interested in reading more about and choose your pick. Of course, the one that I started with was the nonfiction book about Schitt's Creek, and it is all about why queer people love Schitt's Creek and what Schitt's Creek did for the queer community on television as a TV show. And it was so good. I loved it so much. Definitely recommend. Even as a gift, you can gift it to someone whom you know loves the show, and I can tell you that they're going to love this gift because it is that good if you enjoy the series. Then I have Feelings, a story in season by Manjit Thap. She is an illustrator, an artist, and she created this illustrated nonfiction book that is partly memoir. It is a 1-year journey of this author through her seasonal depression. It was so beautifully illustrated, so gorgeous to look at, and also very interesting to read. So again, perfect as a gift as well because it looks gorgeous. I do not have, unfortunately, the physical copy here with me to show you, but trust me on this, or look at the sample on the online bookstores or in a bookstore if you have the possibility to do so. It is gorgeous. 100% recommend. And the last nonfiction book that I would like to recommend is also a bit of a cheat because technically the physical book is 260 pages long, but if you listen to the audiobook, the author speaks so fast that you won't even realize that time is passing, and you will have such a good time, so many laughs that you will be thankful for it. Even if, yes, it is slightly longer, you know? It's not quite the short book. But I am talking about Everyone You Hate Is Going to Die by Daniel Sloss. Daniel Sloss is a Scottish stand-up comedian. He has 3 or more specials on Netflix, and they're so worth the watch. They are incredible. He is so smart. His comedy is funny, but it's that type of comedy that really makes you think about what he's talking about people, about society, about human nature, about relationships. And he's great. I love him so much. He's fantastic, he's awesome, and this book is just like watching a show of his, but for 6 hours or however long the audiobook was. I don't care, time flew. It is perhaps the only audiobook for which I gladly, happily listened to the acknowledgements, okay? Because even the acknowledgements were so hilarious. And I think it's also a nice book to read / listen to at the end of the year because, you know, with Christmas coming up and then the New Year's resolutions and stuff, this book really makes you think about the type of human that you are and how you can be better, a better human being in society and with other people. That's the kind of reflection that he inspires as a comedian, and that's absolutely amazing. And last but not least, graphic novels. I read a lot of graphic novels, so my advice personally is just to go to my graphic novels shelf on Goodreads and have fun and see there whatever you're in the mood for, whatever is the type of graphic novel that you like to read. But I have selected just a few for this video because otherwise we literally could stay here for hours and we do not want that. I have chosen a few that I absolutely loved and that I haven't mentioned recently on my channel. What We Don't Talk About by Charlotte Christensen. This is a graphic novel about an interracial couple where the woman is black and the guy is white. They are going to visit the guy's parents for a weekend or something, and when they get there, the girl realizes just how colorblind and borderline racist the family is, and that of course affects their relationship. And they try to have conversations about race and the guy is not really listening to the girl's concerns, and so the graphic novel is about that. Considering how short it is, because it's only 108 pages long, it really packed a lot. It was so interesting to see. The art style was absolutely beautiful and I definitely recommend. Similar to that is Wash Day Diaries by Jamila Rouser. This is a lovely, beautifully illustrated graphic novel, queer graphic novel about 4 black women, 4 friends during their wash day, the day in which they wash their hair, and how that day works and what they do, how long it takes, how you're supposed to care for black hair. And as we do so, as we follow them, we learn more about their relationship, their friendship. It was just beautiful. I loved it so much. And you really learn a lot. I mean, when I have to retwist my wife's hair, it takes hours. But now I've gotten better. I think that 3.5 hours, 4 hours, we can try to have it done. But it takes its time. And I love doing it, but it's something that takes time and care. And it is something that I would have never known about otherwise. If you don't have a black partner, and even if you do, this graphic novel is definitely very interesting to read. Then I want to recommend a French graphic novel artist. I've read 2 graphic novels by her and they were just so beautiful, so deep. They moved me to tears. I loved them so much. The first one that I read was Waves, and this one specifically is about a Sapphic couple who is going through, one of them having had an abortion, and so it kind of deals with that and with the pain and all the feelings and how they're being processed. And the other one was called 60 Years in the Winter, and it is about this woman who is turning 60, and literally that same day, while she's sitting at the table with her family about to blow out the candles, she just gets up, takes her suitcase and leaves, and she starts living her life the way that she wanted to. And everyone in the family thinks that she's crazy, but she doesn't care. She wants to follow her own path, and it was beautiful, gorgeous, incredibly illustrated. And last but not least, I want to recommend one graphic novel by an Italian graphic novel illustrator, an artist and writer whom I adore. And this graphic novel specifically is very close and dear to my heart because it is set in New York. I just love New York. That city is something else. Pure magic. Anyways, I am talking about The Sound of the World by Heart by Giacomo Bevilacqua. He is just a great human being, honestly, but he's also a very talented writer and illustrator, and I discovered him with this graphic novel. Now I've read others, but this one will always be my favorite. And it is about this man who goes to Manhattan to live there for a couple of months while he's writing an article about loneliness. For the time that he is in Manhattan, he's not supposed to talk to anybody. And so we see him on his journey and what happens throughout these 2 months. And it was gorgeous. The illustrations really reminded me of a place that I went to, that I've been to in New York, and I just loved it. 100% recommend. And this is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching it. Please let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of the books that I've talked about and if you enjoyed them. And please let me know some of your recommendations for short books that I might want to read before the year ends, because I am positive that next year, when this time comes around, I will be just as behind on my Goodreads reading challenge as I am this year. So these recommendations are always good to have. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you very soon with another 12 Days of Booksmas video, but until then, have a good one, take care, and keep reading queer books. Warm hugs. Bye!